Welcome back to Hand Sewing with the HTA. In this episode we're going to be covering the back and half back stitch. Please take a look. So what I've done here is I've taken two sample pieces of cloth, I've overlocked them and I've basted them together. So now what I'm going to do is take some contrasting silk thread and I've threaded onto a size 9 between needle, and then we're going to stitch these two pieces of fabric together. Trim that off there. So I've basted it off at a 1/2 inch so I can back stitch it at 3/8. So we start off by just catching the tying on the thread. And then one more time, this time we start into the back stitch, so go forward. Then we come back to the previous stitch, forward again, like that. And again back to the previous stitch, forward. This is the full back stitch. So you're coming back to the previous stitch and then you're going forward to the next stitch. Now you could use this stitch if you wanted to in joining the shoulders, the coat. You could use it, so you could use it with the seat seam for the trouser. You can use it pretty much anywhere where you've got a machine stitch. You can replace it with a back stitch. You might even try backing out your waistcoat with it if you're not that skilled on the machine, although it will take a considerably longer length of time to turn out the back of the waistcoat with a back stitch than it would be on the sewing machine. So let's have a look at it from the other side. Sit there like that, so more like interlocking stitch. So it kind of looks nicer on the top than it does on the bottom. I used to do my shoulder seams and my seat seams and even my armholes, sleeves by hand, and I stopped doing it because it's all well and good if you're just putting in the once, but if you've got to go back and do an alteration, unpicking out all these stitches is a lot more difficult, and if you increase the chance of actually damaging the cloth doing it. So by that time you're actually, when you're sewing forward like this, you're actually going through the thread that's underneath. So then your threads, they're not just set side by side, they're actually pulled through other. So that's the back stitch. So what's the half back stitch? Well, the half back stitch is you come back half of the way. So rather than coming all the way back to the previous stitch, you just come back half the way. Whatever, how far you go forward, come back only half the distance. It's very similar to the pick stitch. Now you could obviously make the stitch, a half back stitch, a lot longer than that. I mean, you could go, kind of go that far forward and then come this far back. This depends on what you're sewing, you know, the length of the seam, how many, what stitch density you feel like you need in it. The same goes for the back stitch. I mean, you could do a longer back stitch. I don't have as much use for these stitches anymore. I would use them in a plate if I had to repair something, kind of like on the fly or whatever. Just stick a couple hand stitches into it. It'll hold. Get a seam burst or something, just pull out the needle and thimble and stitch it up. And there you go. There you go. And then like I know we've already demonstrated the pick stitch, but it's exactly the same, except you're just not coming back quite as far. You just want this tiny little pinprick of a fizzle on top. There you go, so you can see the difference there. You started off here with a back stitch, and then we went half back, and then we got a long back stitch, and then into a pick stitch. So there you go, guys. I hope that clear things up. And that's all we have time for in this lesson. Thank you for watching.